Update. I, female 25, went no contact with my family, male 54, female 50, and male 20, when I was 18. Now they are reaching out. What should I do? Original post. For whatever reason, my parents didn't want me. Once they had my brother, who we'll call Adam, I was pretty much ignored. They didn't abuse me, but I was pretty neglected. Everything was about Adam, how smart he was, how athletic he was, how he was just the best thing since sliced bread. Then there's me, a pretty average kid who got decent grades, didn't play sports, wasn't super popular, and liked to read books. I can't tell you how many times I heard, "Why can't you be more like Adam?" What made me cut off my family was when they didn't attend my high school graduation. Adam had gotten hurt that morning, a sprained ankle I was eventually told, and our parents rushed him to the ER because he swore up and down he broke his leg. I only got one text from my mom telling me they would make it up to me with dinner at some family restaurant I mildly enjoyed. I was done after that. I had been used to being neglected or forgotten, but I thought they would at least attend my graduation. I moved out that summer to go live with my cousin in Arizona. Then I blocked my parents and brother, and they haven't been in my life since. My family did try to get into contact with me after I left, but it was mostly just to tell me I was a bad daughter, overly sensitive, and didn't care about Adam. Years later, I still don't have any contact with them. I'm now married to my husband John, male 26, who loves me and treats me like I matter. We also have a daughter who's now 2, that I love more than the world itself. I have a close-knit group of friends and a job that makes decent money and that I enjoy. I'm not saying my life is perfect or a dream or anything, but it's definitely leagues better than my childhood. Which brings me to last week, when my cousin called to tell me they had a message from my parents and my brother. This isn't anything new, but the message itself was. Instead of the usual blame game, my cousin told me that they wanted to apologize for everything. With Father's Day coming up, they were hoping I could come down to visit with my family and we could have a discussion. I know most people would scream, "Don't! It's a trap! They want something from you." But I'm not so sure. For one thing, none of them have ever reached out to apologize for anything. But I still have connections to my extended family, so I have info about my parents and Adam from them. None of them are sick or dying and need an organ. They're not in debt or need help with finances. My parents aren't hoping to retire and want to be supported. Adam doesn't need help with student loans, scholarship kid, so it could be genuine. But at the same time, I don't know if I care enough to have a discussion. My life has been great without them, so why do I need them now? I wanted them as a kid, but not anymore. However, John says this could be a genuine olive branch since they never apologize. He might be right. Even if I don't agree to have contact, I might finally get some closure or at least some answers as to why they didn't want me or why Adam was so much better than me. Should I hear them out or just tell my cousin to tell them to go step on Legos? I'll take any advice at this point. Now for the top advice before reading the update. From someone who is also no contact with immediate family members, I suggest you weigh the cost-benefit. What will it cost you, emotionally, financially, physically? And is it worth the risk? Walk through possible outcomes, best case and worst case scenarios. For me, if they wanted to apologize and talk, I wouldn't be willing to take the time and money to fly to them and do it on their terms. They could have sent a letter, right? The answer is yes. Due to the gaslighting and psychological manipulation my family has put me through, I'd want it all in writing. I'd hear them out, but would want to see it before I even gave it a chance. They don't actually have my address, so they couldn't send a letter directly to me. But they could send it to my cousin, and she could always give it to me. That is something I think you need to determine for yourself. But since you're asking for opinions, my advice is, ask them to apologize in writing before you ever agree to a discussion. If they're sincere, they will respect boundaries. If you need resources, I'd look up AUDHD former teacher on TikTok and Instagram. She has a ton of videos about going no contact with her abusive parents and the tactics they use, and often links other no contact adults. You may be able to relate. There are plenty of others, but I happen to follow her, so she gets my recommendation. I hadn't considered the writing. I'm so used to my parents wanting to talk everything out that I didn't think to just ask for written evidence. A paper trail of sort of what they've done would be nice, if only for myself. I would not contact them. I highly doubt they are remorseful. It's likely that they want something. You have your family now, husband and child. Why allow your parents to say anything? If they did want something, I feel like my cousin would have told me or warned me that something was going on with them. Yet there aren't any signs that they need anything, other than have a discussion with me apparently. They want access to your daughter. I would be cautious. I thought of that too, but my husband said that if they just wanted access to our daughter, they would have tried to reach when she was born. Unless my brother is suddenly sterile, it's not like they won't get more grandkids. Now for the update. Hey guys, a lot of you gave solid advice on my first post, and I really appreciate it. I did ask my friends for their own advice too, but they had more of a bust their kneecaps school of thought. Funny, but not so helpful at the time. Anyway, even though a lot of you warned me, I was just too curious not to talk to my family. Still, I told my cousin to let them know I was not meeting them for Father's Day. I had always intended to reject the idea. I wanted to celebrate John and my father-in-law for being awesome, and that I wanted to do a Zoom meeting instead. I was expecting them to pitch a fit, but they agreed. Yesterday, we met on Zoom. I made sure to have the meeting at my cousin's house because my house is my space, and I don't like intruders, whether in person or virtual. John was hiding in the room out of sight, and my daughter was with my cousin's partner. Long story short, my mother is a revolving door, and both my parents are idiots. To make it a longer story, my mother had an affair with my Uncle Rick, male 60, my dad's older brother, and got caught after she found out she was pregnant. My dad forgave her and agreed to raise me as his, as long as they never did a paternity test. Apparently, it was easier for him to act as my father if he didn't have confirmation that I was his brother's child. Spoiler alert, I am not Rick's kid. Unfortunately for me, I have always been my dad's biological daughter. Rick apparently can't have kids, and my dad only found out on Mother's Day when Rick's wife made a joke about it. So my parents resented me all this time because they were convinced I was Rick's child, despite never having proof. It didn't help that I was just so mediocre compared to Adam, like how Rick is compared to my dad. What I mean by that is, my dad has a fancy desk job with a titled position, and Rick is just your average truck driver. So clearly that must have meant I couldn't be my father's child? They begged for forgiveness. My mom tried to blame my dad for not taking the test. My dad tried to blame my mom for being a truck stop for Rick. But they both wanted me to forgive them because they were sick with regret over how they treated me due to a misunderstanding. They swore up and down that, even if they weren't always there for me, that they still loved me, were still my parents, and that we could be a real family now that the misunderstanding was finally cleared up. Even Adam was pushing hard for it. People asked about our relationship in my last post, but there's not really much to say. He was like a roommate. I was never bullied by him, and he didn't really interact with me, though he definitely reveled in our parents' favoritism. Still, they were all very sorry, but I had to understand why my parents acted the way they did. Now everyone wants to make it up to me and be part of my life again, and be the best grandparents and uncle they can be to my daughter. I obviously told them no. Anyone with eyes could see they just wanted forgiveness to make themselves feel better. I told them that my life was better without them, and that I didn't need them anymore. They got mad at that and called me heartless, cruel, and a bad daughter for being so unforgiving and for not being more understanding toward them, because it was just a mistake that I had a crappy childhood and had to play second fiddle to Adam. I just told them to forget I existed and ended the call. Then I burst into tears, and my husband had to comfort me. Their insults didn't hurt me, even after all this time of no contact. I'm used to that. But all that time spent feeling like crap and suicidal, and wondering what I did to deserve my mistreatment was just a waste. All because my parents were massive douche canoes with chicken nuggets for brains. I'm glad I didn't waste money to go see them. I'm also glad I heard them out for my own closure. They're trying to aggressively reach out and contact me, even getting other relatives to do so. I've already got a bunch of emails and texts this morning, ranging from please to just hear them out, to insults about being cruel and heartless. I've been ignoring them because I've washed my hands of my family and will continue to remain no contact. So yeah, thank you for all your advice. It meant a lot. The audacity of basically saying, you were so mediocre. Clearly there was no way we'd ever think you were biologically dads. So really, it's your fault for having been so mid. You owe them forgiveness and understanding because you suck too much to be treated well by your parents? You know what? At least you got an answer. It's a moronic answer, but it's an answer. Now you know that your family remains crap. Good for them. They have each other. Stay on course. You've clearly nothing to gain from mending fences, except being called too average to be some fancy successful a-hole's kid LOL. So dad forgives the cheating wife and the backstabbing brother, but somehow can't even pretend to like an innocent child that knew nothing about their affair? Get out of here with that. Right, his options were 1, leave because of the affair, or 2, stay and be a decent father. There is no 3, treat a child like garbage. That's not a valid option, and he can buzz all the way off. They keep talking about their mistake. F that. The mistake was not knowing she was her father's daughter, but treating her like crap and neglecting her for 25 years? That was a conscious choice. I'm flabbergasted at her parents' stupidity. The revelation changes nothing. If OP really had been an affair baby, that would not have been her fault. Learning that she is not an affair baby just means that they went from a situation where she did nothing to deserve mistreatment to a situation where she did nothing to deserve mistreatment. The mistake changed nothing. The revelation makes it worse. They neglected her out of malice. Last story. My 41 male wife, 43 female, openly has a least favorite child. Can't deal with her. We've been married for around 13 years and have 3 daughters, ages 11, 8, and 6. Our oldest is 11 and has a mild form of autism, what used to be called Asperger's. She's a very easygoing kid. She does what she's asked, when she's asked, rarely asks for anything, and is content in her own bubble. She's introverted and has the most in common with her mom. She's homeschooled like her mom was and really thrives in that setup. Our youngest, who is 6, has high-needs autism. She attends year-round special education and is an elopement risk. It's a full-time stress and struggle, but she's also a sweet and affectionate child. Our middle daughter, age 8, is something else entirely. She's neurotypical and by her own request goes to public school. I don't know where she gets it from, but she turns everything into a negotiation and will argue to no end. She constantly wants something bought for her, done for her, or to be taken somewhere. If you tell her she can pick one thing at the store, she'll pick 3 and try to make you feel guilty for saying no. She's extremely extroverted, always with friends or at someone's house in the neighborhood. Anytime she has her iPad, she'll FaceTime her best friend from school and could stay on the call for hours if we let her. My wife tried to homeschool her too, but the constant arguing and negotiating made it impossible. She begged to go to public school, just finished her first year, and absolutely loved it. She also enjoys pushing her older sister's buttons and getting a reaction. The interesting part is that, when she's at school or with friends' parents, she gets glowing reports, no issues, no complaints. And when I'm parenting solo while my wife is away, things tend to go more smoothly. I'm more direct. I don't negotiate, and I don't offer second chances. It's not about being harsh, but if you give her an inch, she'll take a mile. When both of us are home, the dynamic shifts. My wife often gets drawn into long verbal battles with her, takes the disobedience personally, and eventually calls me in once it's already escalated. By then, our daughter is past the point of reasoning. No consequence or logical redirection seems to work. It could start with something as small as time to brush your teeth and spiral into a full meltdown because she decides she wants a snack instead. Even after I've diffused the situation and moved on, my wife sometimes brings it back up minutes later with a comment like, "I can't believe you." It feels like she's trying to win the argument after the fact. When our middle daughter went camping with her best friend for the 4th of July, my wife came through the door afterward and yelled, "Middle is gone." She frequently makes indirect comments implying that our middle daughter is difficult or always causing problems. I can't help but feel like that kind of labeling only makes things worse. When I offer gentle suggestions, my wife often shuts them down. She'll say things like, "You don't know what she does to me," or "She behaves better for you because you're not with her as much." Has anyone else dealt with a dynamic like this between a parent and child or between co-parents and found any strategies that helped reset the relationship? Now for the top advice. So, as autism is hereditary, which parent is autistic? That'd be me. Never really realized it until my oldest was diagnosed. I'll start by saying you sound like a great dad. Given the fact that your 2 other daughters have additional needs and get lots of one-on-one time with mom through homeschooling, is it possible this is attention-seeking behavior? How much one-on-one time does middle get with mom and dad? It sounds like you're thinking about this already, but I'd be curious to know how your wife would answer. Yes, children can be difficult, but they can also sense when they are not liked by their caretakers, and it creates a lot of anxiety and confusion for them, especially when you're talking about the same-sex parent. All of that to say, your wife needs an outlet that is not you or your children to manage her anger, or she will alienate your middle child further. Maybe it's therapy, maybe it's a parent support group, etc. But yeah, based on what you've said, your wife needs to change the way she talks to and about your middle daughter. Thank you. I really appreciate your thoughtful reply. It can be tough to make our middle daughter happy, even when we try to do special things just for her. For example, I recently took her to her favorite hobby shop to buy Pokemon cards. We agreed on a budget, but once we got there, she pushed hard for more. When I stuck to the plan, it turned into a meltdown at the register with tears and promises to pay me back or do chores. Another time, I took her to a local gym event to run around and play for a couple hours. On the way home, she asked for a milkshake at 10 p.m., and when I said no, she came home visibly upset. Instead of being content with a fun night and the time together, she focused on what she didn't get. If we go to the zoo and pass the gift shop, it's the same pattern. She wants too much, gets upset, and the moment sours. My wife has said things like, "You're ruining the day for everyone," which I get, but it's also not the kind of message an 8-year-old knows how to process.